Okay, so are you ready to dive deep?
Always ready.
All right, let's do it. Today, we're looking at the inner circle. Uh,
Oh, yeah.
this is a group of speakers that this consulting firm, the Closer, has put together.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, this is a fascinating group of people. I mean, we've got leadership experts, we got AI masterminds, we even got a race car driver.
It's quite a roster, right? I mean, what's the thought process behind that? What are they trying to do here with this group?
Yeah, it's like they went to like a conference of like the coolest people in the world and were like, hey, want to be part of our consulting firm? So
Exactly.
that's what we're going to figure out today. We're going to unpack, we're going to figure out who these speakers are, what they bring to the table, and how their expertise could connect with our audience.
Yeah, I think that's a good point too, is how does this all fit together? Is there a common thread that runs through all these speakers?
Exactly. We're going to try to figure out, like, what is the closer's consulting approach based on the speakers they chose?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, what are some of the maybe problems that businesses are facing today that they're trying to address by bringing in this really diverse set of speakers?
Exactly. So let's just get started. All right, let's start with Andrew Bryant.
Okay.
Now, this guy is not just any leadership expert. He founded Self Leadership International,
Wow.
and he was also the president of the Global Speakers Federation.
Okay. So somebody who really knows how to lead.
Yeah, I mean, this guy knows what he's talking about. He walks the walk, talks the talk.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think it's really interesting that they decided to lead with a self-leadership expert. It makes me think that maybe the closer as an organization, or at least the way they approach their consulting, is really thinking about how personal development plays into that and how that then affects how you lead within an organization.
Oh, that's an interesting point.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay, so let's move on to the next speaker. So
Yeah.
we have Andy Edwards. He actually coined the term relationomics, which basically means like focusing on the ROI of strong relationships.
Okay, yeah.
So
I mean, that's interesting.
especially in a world where everybody's like focused on data and metrics, it's kind of cool to see somebody talking about the softer skills and the human element of business.
Yeah, and especially I think we've all worked in places or maybe been part of, teams or groups where relationships haven't been great and the toll that that takes.
Exactly.
Right. So, I mean, I think anything that you can do to help businesses improve the relationships within their own teams is probably a really great thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you think about it, right? Like
Yeah.
if you have good relationships with
Mm.
your team, your clients,
The,
vendors, everybody that you work with,
mm.
it's just going to make everybody's life a little easier. Okay, so let's move on to our next speaker. This is Elin Hodge. Now she brings the AI perspective.
Hmm.
So she's not just talking about the future of AI. She's looking at the past. She's looking at AI's role as a disruptor throughout history.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So, I mean, think about it. The printing press, the steam engine, AI is like the next in a long line of
And it's
disruptors.
fascinating. And
The-
so it's not just about, looking at what AI can do today and what it might do tomorrow, but how it actually has affected
Yeah.
us historically and how that might inform, what might happen in the future.
Exactly.
Wow, that's a really cool perspective.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit and talk about well-being and high performance with George Anderson.
Okay.
So he is described as like a dynamic motivator.
Okay.
So he knows how to get the best out of people.
I think it's interesting that they have a speaker who's focused on that.
Yeah.
I mean, we just talked about AI as a disruptor, right?
Right.
And so you've got all these changes happening within businesses. And so then to also have somebody who can come in and say, okay, but how do we keep our employees motivated and how do we keep our employees engaged?
Right.
How do we keep them performing at a high level when everything around them is shifting?
Absolutely. All right, so are you ready for another AI expert?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Bring it on.
This is Lassa Ruhanen, and he is like all about ChatGPT.
Okay.
I mean, this is so
I mean,
timely.
it's all anyone's talking about.
I know, right? Everybody's talking about ChatGPT. Businesses are trying to figure out, like, how can we use this? What can we do with this?
What's the application here? Yeah.
It's super interesting.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, too, that they have two AI experts who are very, very different. Like one is looking at it through the lens of history, and then another one who's looking at it through a very specific application.
Yeah, that is very interesting.
So it's like they're not just saying, hey, we know about AI. It's like they really are trying to give you like a well-rounded,
A holistic view.
yeah, exactly, a holistic view of what AI is.
Yeah. Okay, so are you ready for this one? This is Marit Stromoy,
Okay.
race car driver from Norway. You don't see that every day, right?
No, not in this context, right? That's fascinating.
I know.
It's interesting, though, because I'm like, what kind of insights can she bring from, being a race car
Or
driver
not even.
to being a business leader? But then, I mean, you think about it, that's a very, very high pressure, performance driven environment, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
A small mistake can have, huge repercussions. And so
Right.
there's probably a lot to be learned from that in terms of like decision making,
Yeah,
risk taking, managing stress.
absolutely.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Okay. So, speaking of high pressure roles, we got Monica Verma. She is one of the top 3 Chief Information Security Officers,
Wow.
CISOs.
Okay.
And she's one of the top 3 in all of Europe, the Middle East, and Africa.
Okay, so huge, huge area that she covers.
Yeah. I mean, this is a big deal. And if you don't know what a CISO is, they basically are like the guardians of a company's data.
Oh, wow. So in our world today, very, very important role. Yeah.
Extremely important.
Yeah.
Because, cybersecurity is one of the biggest concerns for businesses of any size. So to have somebody like Monica Verma on their team
Yeah, that's huge.
is a big, big deal.
Yeah.
Okay, so next up we have Monica Bielski. She's an explorer, a visionary. She's not your typical business consultant,
Okay.
which I think makes her, like, really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like the closer saying, we don't just solve problems here. We'd like to challenge perspectives.
Yeah, it's kind of like think outside the box. It's like they're introducing like a little bit of a wild card.
I love it.
Somebody who can just kind of like shake things up and be like, hey, look at it from a different perspective.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, a few more speakers to go. We got Riccardo Cabetti. He is a true global citizen. He's given keynote speeches in over 20 countries.
Wow.
I mean, can you imagine? So having that kind of international experience probably gives him a really unique understanding of, like, diverse business cultures.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, in our world, that's invaluable, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you have businesses working together from, all over the world. And so just knowing those little cultural nuances can make or break a deal.
Exactly. Okay, so then we have Rashad Ahmed. He is a keynote speaker, a leadership coach, and an author.
Okay, so like a triple threat.
A triple threat, I know. And he helps individuals and companies reach their full potential. So he definitely fits in with the closer theme of, transformation, growth.
Yeah, it sounds like they're looking for people who are not just like gonna point out the problems,
Yeah.
but also say, okay, here's how you fix it and here's how you implement it.
Yeah, exactly. Give you like actionable steps.
Yeah.
All right, we got Tim Reed. He is our creativity and innovation guru. I mean, in a world that's constantly changing, we all need a little more creativity, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, innovation is key for any organization, I think, that wants to stay relevant and wants to stay ahead of the game.
Exactly, yeah. And it's not just about coming up with new ideas. It's about creating a culture of innovation,
Yeah.
which is something that he probably specializes in. Okay, last but not least, we have Tony Fish. So he describes himself as neurominority,
Okay.
meaning his brain works a little differently.
Hmm.
And he's an expert in decision-making, especially in uncertain environments.
That's really cool.
That's so cool.
I love that perspective because we're always told, here's how to be a good decision maker.
Yeah.
But this is kind of challenging that norm and saying, well, actually, neurodiversity can actually be a real strength,
Yeah,
especially when you're in a really complex environment.
absolutely. So there you have it, the inner circle. What do you think? I'm starting to see a pattern here.
Yeah, I think it's clear, right, that they have very intentionally selected this group of speakers, that they are all very, very different. They come from very different backgrounds, but they all have expertise that can address different facets
Yeah.
of the challenges that businesses are facing today. They're not just offering a collection of speakers. They're offering like a comprehensive approach to problem solving, it seems like.
Yeah, and I think the reason why they call it the inner circle is because it's like they're saying, we got all the pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah,
You just got to tell us what picture you're trying to make.
exactly. Here are the tools. What do you need?
Yeah.
And I think, too, for the listener, right, this is a really valuable opportunity to look at your own organization, look at the problems you're facing, and say, okay, which one of these speakers really resonates with me? Or which one of these, expertises are we lacking in our organization?
Yeah, that's a great point.
Right. If you had access to this group of people, what would you ask them?
So that's something to think about. If you could sit down for dinner with any 3 of these speakers,
Oh, that's a good question.
who would you choose?
Yeah.
And what burning questions would you ask them? And think about how that connects to your own goals and your own aspirations. Until next time, keep diving deep.
Die.
Bye.